Greetings. This video is going to take a look at different oil filter options that are available for the C7 and the C8 Corvette and hopefully help to inform you about making the best choice and best decision for the proper oil filter for your vehicle. Now we're going to break this up in a couple of different ways. One of them is GM's requirements for the type of oil filter that be used for your Corvette, because this is actually a little bit different for the C7 and C8 Corvette than what we might be used to in different automobiles. We have a slightly different issue that comes up with oil filter fitment that comes up with these vehicles. And then after that, once we find the filters that are appropriate to be used in this vehicle, then it comes down to preference on which oil filter that can be used in the vehicle might be best for your vehicle. And that might come up to subjective opinion and preference as well. So let's take a look at these issues. The first one is, what oil filter fitments are actually appropriate for the C7 and C8 Corvette? Well, some of you may have already done your research and recalled that during the C7 Corvette days, Chevrolet put out a bulletin that said there are certain oil filters that are not appropriate for the C7 Corvette. And here's a snippet of that. There, they pointed out a couple of different things. One of them very specifically, the bypass valve pressure. That is the pressure at which oil bypasses the filter and goes unfiltered into the vehicle. Now you have to have a bypass ability, because if your filter became, for some reason, clogged or with contaminants in it, you wouldn't want to reduce oil flow altogether, so it would actually be better to have unfiltered oil than no oil filtering through the engine. So let's take a look at those bypass filters and really what they do. Okay, we have these two filters out here, boom. Here was the old filter that many people used to use, and the popular aftermarket filter that goes along with that is the Mobil 1 M113A. It goes with the AC Delco PF48, which was superseded by PF48E. That was the old one. It had a 15 PSI bypass pressure. Okay, so a little bit of a lower pressure than what we have now. We can see how it's made. Not overly impressive. The filter media end caps here are paper. Your standard rubber or nitrile anti-drain back gasket there. But here is your bypass. And this one, if you push on it, is at 15 PSI. And that's the bypass. So the oil is going to enter in through the outside of the filter media. It's going to push through the media. If it can't push through the media at 15 PSI, it's going to push open that valve and go into the engine. So that was the Mobil 1 113A that has a similar bypass pressure of 15 PSI. We do not want to use these anymore, per the bulletin. So we take these, we get rid of them, goodbye. Do not put the Mobil 1 113A or the AC Delco PF48E filter in your C7 or C8 Corvette. Never, never, never. So what came after that? The PF64 is the correct filter to use. What goes along with that, if we're just talking Mobil 1, is the Mobil 1 114A. These both have the OEM, a 22 PSI bypass. That's that higher bypass rating, okay? Good filtering ability here. And the Mobil 1 as well with that 22 PSI bypass. And so what we have here is a different, by the way, a different filter construction. Again, nice metal end caps. We'll take a look at these later and all that good stuff. But here is that bypass, and that is going to bypass at a higher 22 PSI. Same thing with this Mobil 1 filter that is appropriate to use. So just so we're clear, before we move on to actually selecting filters that we might want to use, which are any of these with the appropriate bypasses, we do not want to use the Mobil 113A or the AC Delco PF48. Okay, so now we have that out of the way. Let's look at some popular options here that do meet the correct specifications to be used in the C7 or C8 Corvette. We'll take a look at that. So let's go through and take a look at which of these filters that all would be appropriate for use in the C7 or C8 Corvette, which ones we might prefer to use. So starting out in alphabetical order, we have the AC Delco OEM filter, that is the PF64 filter. And this filter is, very, very well made. And the most probably, I think, important thing about this filter is that if you are still under warranty, you probably may want to choose this filter. And that's for the reason that if anything goes wrong with this filter that should cause a failure, particularly like a failure of the engine, you will still be covered under warranty. And I know a lot of people say, oh, well, the Magnuson Warranty Act is going to help me and it'll save me and this and that, and I go to federal court and I'll win every time and this and that. Number one, you don't want to go to court with the manufacturer. You're going to lose every time. Number two, it has absolutely, that Warranty Act will have absolutely nothing to do with using aftermarket filters and covering a failure of that aftermarket filter that does cause damage to the engine. Because remember, this is an OEM AC Delco filter, meaning GM is actually warranting the filter. And because GM is warranting the filter, if this filter causes damage to an engine, they're going to now cover your engine as well. Whereas General Motors is not covering any of these filters. And if these filters should fail, then your engine will not be covered. And now, again, yes, they supposedly may have to prove that this filter actually caused the damage, but if they do, you're out of luck. Whereas if you use the OEM filter, if it causes damage, you're not out of luck. You're still covered. So some people will find that peace of mind worthwhile automatically to use this filter. That being said, let's take a look at it and see if you're really giving up anything by using it. So first of all, let's look at our stamped steel holder that goes in here. That's going to hold everything in place, and it has the bypass valve attached to it. Pretty basic bypass valve, again, going to be at that 22 psi. It's pretty basic in its operation, and as you can see, but quality construction. It's got a bunch of pleats here, so a lot of surface area. Seems to be, the quality control seems pretty darn good. Has a plastic interior here in the skeleton. Never seen one of these fail. A lot of people say, oh, well, it's plastic, it's going to be cheap then, it's going to crack. And I've never actually seen them crack or anything like that happen. Whereas General Motors says that they flow better, they allow more flow, which, I don't know, seems to perhaps logically make sense of being able to get more flow through there than a metal one. But point is that I wouldn't necessarily let that sway you one way or the other. It does have nice metal end caps on it that seem to be very well glued in place. So overall, construction seems to be pretty darn decent. It has a rubber anti-drain back valve, which is not necessarily as highly sought after as the silicone ones, so meaning it will not be as pliable and performance function as well in extreme cold or perhaps even hot temperatures. So if you live in extreme conditions, then maybe this might be a consideration for you. But overall, generally very well constructed, and with that 22 psi bypass and the micron efficiency rating rated at supposedly 98% multi-pass filtering efficiency at 25 to 30 micron. And you might be saying to yourself, well, how can they get away with saying that? Is it 25 micron or 30 micron? Because 98% at 25 micron is very different from 98% at 30 micron. How can they get away with saying that? Well, the reason they can get away with saying that is because just like with all of these filters is that their own efficiency rating is their own efficiency rating. It's based on the tests that they run, and it's completely self-reported. It is not certified like a motor oil. Okay, so let's pull out two motor oils here. These are two different motor oils that you can put in a C7 or C8 Corvette, right? The ESP X3 and the ESP formula from Mobil 1. both 0W40s. We know they're 040s, not just because they say that on there, but because they are API certified to be that viscosity. They have to pass tests that make sure that they fall within those categories, hot and cold. In addition, we also know that they're certified to pass a whole host of tests of hot, cold functioning, low speed pre-ignition, and et cetera, because they're Dexos 2 certified. They don't just claim they're Dexos 2, they have to be able to meet all the tests that are involved in Dexos 2. And in the case of ESP X3, it is also Porsche C40 certified. So it has to meet all those stringent tests of Porsche's C40. What about all of these filters? The answer is no certifications, none whatsoever. So when it comes to filter efficiency, we kind of have to take their word for it, and they all use different SAE type tests sometimes. They all kind of report slightly differently sometimes. So all we can say is that General Motors states that they have 98% multi-pass filtering efficiency at 25 to 30 micron. That's actually an important number to know, because General Motors not only says you have to have the right bypass pressure, which is 22 psi, but they also state that if you're going to use an aftermarket filter, it better have the same filtering ability as their filter. Let that sink in. That's important to know. So if you pick one of these filters and you do get an engine failure and they pull it off your car and they happen to do research into any of these filters and find out that they're not as good at filtering oil than your OEM filter, technically they have very good ground to stand on by saying, nope, sorry, it was an oil-related, lubrication-related failure, and you chose to use a product that does not filter the lubrication. Technically, I'll side with them on that one. It's a reasonable argument. So important numbers to note, and that you probably want to pick a filter that has reasonably good ratings that can compare to that. Let's move on to Fram. Fram, here right now we have the titanium filter. If you happen to notice that there's some similarities here, and you happen to think, gee, I wonder if Fram is making the filters for AC Delco, I'd happen to agree with you on that. Look at the similarities. I would certainly be willing to bet that, yeah, that AC Delco filter is being made by Fram. However, that does not mean they're the same in any way. So obviously these stamped steel pieces can be made the same. That doesn't mean that the filter, and certainly the media here, is different. So right here, again, very good quality construction, just a few little small quality control issues. You can see the filter media is different with the AC Delco being a cellulose with tons of pleats, so you're going to have a huge amount of surface area here, less surface area here because you have less pleats, but surface area doesn't mean everything either, because if you have a different media material, you may not need the surface area. So don't let that sway your decision completely either. Silicone, nice silicone anti-drain back valve, and here Fram stating 19 to 25 psi on the bypass. I realize not very scientific of them, so what is it, 19 or 25 or somewhere in the middle? I don't know, but generally this is within spec of what you're looking for to run on your car. They claim 99% efficiency at 20 microns, and that it is a synthetic blend media. This would pass muster according to their advertising anyway. Is there truth to this advertising? I have no idea, and none of us probably ever will. But let's move on to the Fram Ultra Synthetic, the XG Ultra Guard filter right here. Again, same basic stamped steel holder on the top, basic bypass valve. We have a fully synthetic, what they're calling a dual layer fully synthetic. Again, not too bad with the quality control. Maybe not the best I've ever seen, but certainly not the worst at all. Definitely not too bad. It's got a metal clip on here that attaches the ends of the media to each other. Those are kind of nice to see. Same thing, I believe, with this one. And nice to see. And silicone anti-drain back. Also same specifications here, claiming 99% efficiency at greater than 20 microns. So, and that same 19 to 25 psi. So bypass. So probably good to go there. The Mahle filter. I'm a big fan of the Mahle filters. This is the only filter here that includes a coil spring to hold everything into place. This is higher quality and it is more expensive. That's nice to see. Pretty robust case on it. None of these cases should be bursting, so we shouldn't be making a big deal out of that, but it's very robust, you know. Difference, here's the difference. See that flex? Pretty easy to flex. And then you look at some of these and they're much thicker. Now this is made in Austria, generally very big with German cars. Has an internal bypass there, really nice quality. You see the spring inside there. Also, you'll see this is obviously not something you remove. This is something that stays in place. Anybody who has a pool, like a bullet filter in a pool, will probably recognize this band as something that just really holds that media all together uniformly. Has a clip on the end of the media, making this, understandably, they build these filters for cars in Europe that generally tend to go 20,000 miles plus between oil changes, sometimes a couple of years, and I'm not certainly recommending that you do that, but if you want a filter that's used to that type of duty, these are them, the Mahle filters, and so that's an outstanding filter. Again, it had that clip on the edge of the filter material, whereas the OEM one does not. Again, it seems pretty well glued, so it probably doesn't necessarily need it, but nice to have those extra benefits. And here, silicone anti-drain back, so you get the best of both worlds there, and their specifications are right at the 21.75 psi bypass pressure. That's because they usually rate things in bars, so that's 1.5 bar right there. They state, I made a little mistake there. I was able to get direct feedback from Mahle on this particular filter as opposed to extrapolating from other ones. And on this particular filter, they claim 90% at 22 micron. So at 30 micron, it's going to be quite a bit better than that 90%, and they claim 50% at 13.6 micron. That's pretty decent. I think that'd be comparable. Next one on our list is the Mann filter. This is actually a Mann filter. So Mann and Hummel, the company that makes filters, this is a genuine actual Mann filter that's made over in Germany. And you'll see the difference, okay? So, as we said, Mann and Hummel make the filters also for Mobil 1 and for Wix, so interestingly enough. But we're going to see significant differences. They might as well be made by different companies, and we'll show the differences here. This is the German-made Mann filter. The internal bypass, you have outstanding quality control. The filter media itself looking like in great shape, has the metal clip on the end of it, has the silicone anti-drain back, 26.1 psi bypass, so just a little bit over that 22 psi requirement. Claims 50% at 14 microns, 99% efficiency at 38 is the claim. Now, next one on the list, we have the Mobil 1 M1 114A. Remember, this is the appropriate Mobil 1 to use. Stamped steel. The quality control on these Mobil 1 oil filters has been terrible from what I have seen most recently. I mean, just terrible. So anytime you have, silicone over the media, you're not going to get appropriate, filtering in that area of the media, and just doesn't make a lot of sense to me when I see these. And I saw one of these in the past a few months ago. I opened up, and if I had used it in my car, there's no question I could have had a warranty denial if there was an engine failure, because there's no question that the oil filter would have been responsible for it. Let me show you that one. Yeah, that filter was a mess, and I hate jumping to conclusions on one filter. So, we now look at this one, and it's better, but nowhere near what you would expect to see. Anyway, they claim 22 psi bypass, it's appropriate. They claim a 99% efficiency. at 30 micron, so that's kind of where we need to be. No issue there. I want to show you something else. Remember that M1 113A filter that I also just opened up? It's a different one. Let me show you the quality control on this one too, by the way. There's poor sealing on the media. There is contamination on the media here, 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 just in multiple places. So this is a third one. These were all bought several months apart from each other from actual genuine suppliers. Look at how contaminated this media already is, and it's a brand new filter on both sides, bottom and top. And so I've opened 3 of them from good, AutoZone and Walmart Direct. I'm not buying these online like on Amazon where you don't necessarily know where they're coming from and there's counterfeit parts and stuff. These are actual distributors and dealers of Mobil 1 filters, and I gotta say, this is terrible. Terrible quality, and it's what's amazing to me is, so this is a Mann Hummel filter, this is a Mann Hummel filter, the difference is night and day. This Wix XP, now the last one on our list, is also a Mann Hummel filter. In fact, the top end cap is identical, but look at the difference in quality control for the ones that are made by Mann Hummel for Wix. And they're not great. There's some contamination here and there's little bits here and there, but this is, look at the difference between this one made by Mann Hummel and this one. And you say, well, you must have gotten unlucky with one of the Mobil. Every single one I've opened up just looks like junk. And these are 2 different models, of filters, and they look like they were made by the same people who were not happy working in that factory or something. I don't know. I assume they get paid a lot less in this factory than they do in this one, or else the conditions must be horrific because or the machines are not happy there. I don't know. But anyway, here's the Wix XP. It looks much better. Again, silicone anti-drain back. They claim to the efficiency rating 50% at 20 micron, fully synthetic. Now, that's, that might be an issue if you have warranty requirements. So their claim, and I suspect it performs better than this. This is probably a minimum rating that they're putting down here, but that is what they're saying. So that being said, are there any of these that we would automatically just probably not want to use? And I'll say, yeah, there is. I'm just astounded at the poor quality of these Mobil 1 filters, so we're going to go ahead and get rid of that one off the bat. So boom, it's gone. Okay, so now let's look at these filters. I really think that most of these will come down to preference. So again, if you have a warranty to consider, I would have no issue dealing with the OEM AC Delco filter. Looks extremely well made, has a great self-reported efficiency rating, but I can't think of any reason that would be compelling enough to choose against it. That being said, if you're out of warranty and maybe you live in a very high climate area, any of these have the silicone anti-drain backs. So if you live in harsh, cold or hot conditions, that might be nice to you. Maybe you think it's very important to have a very well held together with a coil spring filter assembly, or you do like to go higher mileage on your filters, so the Mahle might be a great one to choose. The ones that are rated in the filtration efficiency that are rated as similarly to OEM as possible are going to be both of these Fram filters, probably the Mahle filter, and that's 99% at 38. So the Mann filter might just be slightly outside of spec there, and the Wix we probably not. So I would, really just kind of look at what you're looking for in a filter. Here we have the synthetic blend. Here we have full synthetic, full synthetic. These are probably cellulose. They could possibly have some synthetic material in them as well. But all of these filters are also rated at least 10,000 mile oil changes. Most of them are rated at 20,000 mile oil changes and above. So any of these might be great options for you. And what would I personally choose? I am under warranty on the C8, so I'll probably stick with AC Delco. I would love, outside of warranty, or I would love to also use the Mahle OC1421. It looks like an outstanding filter with some great specs. And I'll tell you what, these Frams, you know, they look well built, and their self-reported efficiency ratings shouldn't run into any trouble there. So those look like great options too. But what I would say is, you know, do some of your research now that you know kind of how the construction of each of these are, what they're made of, what their specifications are. Is take a look at them and consider maybe what one you might want to use. It's been a good time, and please feel free to leave any comments or questions or critiques so that I can continue to make these videos better for you all, and enjoy doing this. Thank you.